Howdy folks, Scanner here. In this video we're going to talk about the return of Heroscape, one of the more interesting things to come out of Gen Con this weekend. It's been a minute since I've done a video on the channel, and it's definitely been a minute, I guess, since I've been on camera, so you're just going to have to get used to seeing a little bit more of me, as I imagine I'm going to do more of these on-camera videos going forward. People from back in the PC gaming days are going to remember when I used to do live streams and stuff like that, and it might be a while since you've seen me. If that's the case, thanks for still being around. Okay, Heroscape. Heroscape is coming back as announced by Avalon Hill. People who might remember about 20 years ago when Heroscape launched, it was a hex-based terrain building, model fighting, kind of adjacent game to wargaming. It was, for many people who are now deeply ingrained in the wargaming hobby, their first ever exposure to a wargame. It was available in just random toy shops. You could just walk in, pick it up, give it to your kid, give it to your niece, give it to your nephew, whatever it might be, and potentially set them on the path to a lifelong love of wargaming. This is actually super important, and having access to this type of game outside what we consider to be the more traditional, available to veteran ways to get your hands on models and miniatures and stuff like that is fantastic. It's always wonderful to not have a little closed walled garden that people need to somehow stumble their way into. So what Avalon Hill have said is that they are looking forward to exploring the entire universe of Heroscape, which sounds exciting because it sounds like they're doing some kind of a full rebrand, relaunch, whatever it might be. We will find out more about this on Monday the 8th. They will be launching their Avalon Hill Discord and giving us a lot more information about Heroscape. For now, that's really all we know. They've done a teaser video, they've shown an image of some miniatures standing on top of some cracked and lava-y ground and things like that, and we know that it's called Heroscape Age of Annihilation, which strongly implies, you know, destruction along with the terrain. So that at least gives us a potential theme. What we don't know is if the game will follow the old model, which was starter sets would cost anywhere from around $30 to $40, euros, pounds, and then you could pick up little sets for about $12 as well. That was very interesting pricing because it meant it was a very, very, very accessible game. Everything was pre-painted. You didn't have to have any kind of in-depth accoutrement to really get into the hobby. There was no paints, no brushes, no anything like that. It was just pick up and play. It was also a reasonably simple system, and it was very much aimed at younger kids. So one of the things I'm actually very curious about, and I get ever more interested in as I grow older, is the actual business side of things. And I find myself wondering how Avalon Hill plans to bring this back. You'll potentially know that Avalon Hill did a re-release of HeroQuest recently. Where this is all kind of coincidentally funny is that HeroQuest back in the day, when it was Games Workshop and kind of Milton Bradley to put that out many, many, many years ago, that was actually what got me into the hobby, and that's why I find this stuff so interesting, because my parents didn't have to fall into the Games Workshop web. They didn't have to be near a Games Workshop store. They didn't have to be even near a hobby store. They were just in a toy store close to Christmas, and they saw something that they thought their kids would like. They picked it up, they brought it home, we played it non-stop for months and months and months, and I ended up with a crippling addiction to wargaming and miniatures and things of that nature. So now, all these years later, I find myself hoping that when Heroscape returns, it will actually do the same thing. I really don't want Avalon Hill to bring back Heroscape as some kind of a boutique, expensive, nostalgia-grabbing method of milking the former fans. I would love to see it return as what it was previously, which was a kind of a gateway drug into the hobby, a way to get young people interested in wargaming and wargaming adjacent style games that they might not even know they were into. It does, however, have a couple of potential issues. The first one is just cost. Things are getting more expensive these days, especially on the hobby front. I think we'll all be aware that many of the products that we are purchasing are getting, you know, more and more expensive. Kickstarting projects is getting more and more expensive. Shipping is more expensive. Parts are more expensive. Even plastic is getting more and more expensive because of, like, you know, the oil crisis and things like that. So we might be getting some kind of a boutique product. I honestly don't know And I don't want to predict what exactly Avalon Hill are going to do there, but I'm hoping that they will try and maintain Heroscape as like a budget thing, that they'll be able to produce low cost sets that people can pick up and get into. They don't need to endlessly appeal to the same crowd as everybody else. They don't need to appeal with these like beautifully detailed, stunningly produced miniatures that can be painted up in exorbitant manner and put on Instagram and things like that. It's just not necessary, I feel. I would love to see this come back as what it was, which was an accessible, available, and interesting product to potentially get more and more people into the hobby. Now, I'm sure they will have plenty of people scrabbling to pick it up. Anybody who keeps an eye on the Heroscape secondhand, pre-owned, or unboxed market will know that that stuff is selling for a huge amount of money. There is undoubtedly interest there. And I say that as somebody who has recently spent an unfortunate amount of money purchasing a Gorka Morka box set. You can really hurt people if you're willing to monetize their nostalgia and the childhoods that they potentially never had. But all that aside, I'm really hoping that Avalon Hill understand the value of creating something that younger people might really find interesting and want to use to jump into a hobby. And older fuckers like me can still buy it and still have fun with it. That's not a problem. So yes, I find myself incredibly curious to see how this all plays out. Previously, Heroscape was somewhat cursed. I'm a little worried that if the model didn't work back then, it might not work now. And potentially to survive, they might have no option but to appeal to the whalier type customers. But I'm really truly hoping that that just isn't the case, that they can find a nice niche, they can advertise it really well, they can get it in front of people via that same method of through the stores, through people's local toy shops, and really use it to leverage people into the hobby. Because there's huge advantages to Avalon Hill to make that happen as well. They do sell a huge amount of more in-depth, more strategic games and systems. Same for Hasbro. So yeah, that's it for this video. I just wanted to talk about this stuff because I found it super interesting and I'm quite excited to see how it all plays out. I'll probably be back on Monday when we know more, talking about whatever it is that is revealed, and either being very, very excited or a little bit disappointed, as I have been sometimes in the not too distant past with announcements around things like War Machine and stuff like that. But we can do a video on that during the week if people are interested. So that's it, folks. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day and all the best.